and them family. Tell me, are you ready?
Thank you very much, Ryder. Thank you very much, Party Chairman Mr. Franklin Khan, who tonight is not with us here in St. Augustine. He's at the other end of the island making sure that the South Coast is secure. But I'm sure he would know that we here in Massacre Park are assembling our large numbers, one of the largest gatherings we've ever had at this venue in Trinidad. Party officers, Chairman of the Tunapuna Piako Corporation, Alderman Gooding and his councillors, Deputy Political Leader, Tobago Affairs and Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Orville London. The next Member of Parliament, the person who currently is the incumbent in the constituency of St. Joseph, the hard-working Terence Dale Singh. The next Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, Ms. Alicia Romano. The next Member of Parliament for Tunapuna, Mr. Esmond Ford. And the PNM candidate I want to very specially acknowledge and welcome here tonight, having made her debut on the national platform, Mrs. Parbati Helen Maraj. That very excellent, cogent presentation tonight, which indicated knowledge and commitment, was the last of the PNM spokespersons of our 41 candidates having made her debut here tonight. That is the quality of the PNM slate. The candidate for Chaguanas East, Helen Parbati Maraj. Well, we have Lopino Banya in the audience, and we have a lot of other candidates in the audience. But wherever you are, we have 41 exceptional candidates on the PNM slate. Ladies and gentlemen, we spent a lot of time in the last 4 years telling you that we were on the wrong track. So, with a few days left, I don't think we're going to change much more by telling you how bad it is, even though it's getting from bad to worse. We now focus on letting you know, yes, it's bad. And two, that the PLM is here, and no matter how bad it is, we are the best option to dealing with the situation. Every day I am bombarded by information coming from all quarters, and the news is all bad. What's making the circle now is that notwithstanding all that the Prime Minister is saying, now I could have said the government, but it appears as though the only person in the government is the Prime Minister. All of a sudden, the cabal, like a Zandoli, gone in the hole. And it's the Prime Minister and the village idiot, Rodney Charles, who talking. And their stories are anything about what you want to know. So they come to me to tell me what's going on in the country. The current story is pensioners are coming to me in droves from last month, and they're already coming this month. Pensioners are either not being paid or they're being paid late. My understanding is that the government has a serious financial crunch, and the Minister of Finance is around trying to scrape and scringe, and they are in fact about to embark on some very novel and possibly dangerous ways of raising money to get them past the elections. Watch your pension fund. Watch your pension fund. Watch their account in NGC. And worse, listen to the conversations of the Minister of Finance trying to borrow money in foreign currency to pay in their current account. Watch all of that. Of course, Mr. Hawaii will tell you it is not true. Because everything you tell him is not true. Even though you tell him you get 12 million, he says 10 million, but he's 11 and a half. You will only know the details. You will only know the details from the 8th of September onward. The government, as manager of the country's affairs, the government is in serious difficulty for having mismanaged our affairs. Tonight, I brought one such example for you. And I want to know, from all those who are still undecided, I want to know, what does it take to make you decide that we've had enough? You remember Jack Warner, when he was Minister of Transport, said to us that the government was embarked on some program that will put on license plates certain readable digital databases. So you could read a license plate, as they do in America, and know exactly all you want to know about the vehicle and the driver. That was Jack Warner. Go back to Colum Imbert in 2010. We set out to build a motor vehicle authority to completely revitalize the whole system of managing our motor vehicles. Because the system that is there at licensing office is the same system that was there when we had 10,000 cars in the country and 100,000 cars. Today we have over 700,000 cars on the road in Trinidad and Tobago. So the whole question of a motor vehicle authority was an integral part of an upgrade of the country's institution. And under Colum Imbert, Minister of Transport in the PNM, we embarked on that. We linked up with the Nova Scotians to put in the technical side and to train our people and to make it worthwhile. And we chose Nova Scotia because they have one of the best systems and it's a small Canadian state very much mirroring our circumstance. Let me tell you how it has gone since then. Under Colum Imbert and the Manning administration of 2010, one of the things that had to be done as part of that program of the Motor Vehicle Authority was to relocate it from Lightson Road to somewhere in the east. I think it was Mount Hope we were going, but this government said we're going to go to Frederick Settlement. The budget for building the structure to house the Motor Vehicle Authority was $40 million. And the way it was going to operate was that you would have had that central authority there, and there would have been access stations around the country in Tobago, in Point Fortin, in Chaguanas, and Sandy Grande, and so on. So licensing would have been done around the country, linked to this center in Frederick Settlement. So the building was supposed to cost $40 million, and the entire program was supposed to cost $339 million, a figure arrived at under this government. This is a copy of the cabinet note. This is a copy of the cabinet minute. This is a copy of the instruction from the cabinet note to the Minister of Finance to go out and borrow $339 million to fund the entirety of the Motor Vehicle Authority being brought into being. In other words, that program of upgrading the licensing office to bring us to where Jack Warner said we were going to go, starting with the Colum Imbert period, should have cost you $339 million. In this cabinet note, the details of that $339 million exist. Let me read it for you. I take my time very slowly because I want you all to understand the extent to which this government has raped this country. Construction of 4 access centers, including consultancy services, $119 million. NIDCO management fees, $7 million. Construction of head office, and pay attention to that, construction of head office, $45 million. It was $40 million when Imbert started the program. when they went out to borrow the money, it was 45 million construction of the head office. Outfitting of the access centers around the country, 24 million. Service provider, that is the foreign agency, that is to provide all the computers and all the various things and so on, 124 million. Project office, that is the office that you use while you're actually executing the upgrade, 4 million. Purchase of computers, 6 million. Total for the entire program, 339 million. And that was in 2014. After Imbert left there, the program went to NIB, then to BIDCO. It's going back and forth like a yo-yo. But then, there were 4 ministers of transport since the PNM left office. You had Jack Warner, you had Chandra Sharma, you had Devant Mirage, and now you have the living dead Stephen K.D.s. The project ended up at NIPDEC under a name that should be familiar to you now here in Tunapuna, a certain Hamlin Jailal. He was head of NIPDEC. And while they had 4 ministers of transport, NIPDEC had 3 general managers in 1 year. And therefore, Mr. Jailal was acting, in fact, as executive chairman because they had never had a general manager. They were coming through like a revolving door. So, the chickens are now home to roost. This worksheet that I have here is a NIPDEC heading, Motor Vehicle Authority Program, Costing Analysis, Table 1.0, Estimated Total Funding Required for Motor Vehicle Program up to September 2014 and thereafter. Frederick Settlement Head Office, construction cost. Now that bit, it's almost finished. Huh? Construction cost. What did I tell you was the estimate for that? 45 million. Construction cost, 212 million. And that is up to that point. After September 2014, to finish it, 200 and they would have spent 210 million by September 2014, and they need another 28 million to finish it. That is only the head office building. That is only one component of a multi-component program. The building that was estimated in this program to cost 40 under Imbert, 45 under the First Minister, you would have paid already over 200 million, and when they finish it, it will be 280 million. And the building is now there, almost finished. It's the one building you will not see Mr. Skamler Prasad Bisesa running to go and open with wet cement and half concrete because they're staying far from that. They don't want you to know it. They run down to open an empty hospital, lock it up down there and leave it there to collect mosquito and cobweb. But the Motor Vehicle Authority, only the PNM will tell you that something that should have cost 45 million cost you. Now on that scale of escalation in prices, when the program had a head office at 45 million, the total program was ending at 339 million. So they went out and the Minister of Finance took a bond to cover the whole program for 335 million. Now, they have the worksheet of the present outlook. Guess what the program is going to cost us now? The whole program. The same elements I read out to you a while ago. The access points and the this and the that. Guess what that is scheduled to cost us? I don't even want to repeat this. Total funding required for motor vehicle authority program, 1,090,787,000. Monies available from the bond that they borrow and other monies already spent. They have in hand from the bond and whatever money they got from the treasury, $378 million. Additional funding required for MVA program, $712,722 to end up at $1 billion. Now, that is how Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa and her band of mishandlers of Trinidad and Tobago affairs have, and that is why for the last 3 weeks, we have been telling you that they have spent $60 billion a year and you have nothing to show for it. Where they should have spent $339 billion, you will now spend over $1 billion if you're lucky. Because if they come back into office to spend $1.09 billion, you rest assured that is not going to be the final figure. And when they say one good term deserves another, the good term is the $200 and how many million dollars they spend on a $40 million building, and that deserves another $700 million. That is what they're asking you to vote for. That is what Prakash Ramadar, a member of the cabinet, telling you he has a safe seat in St. Augustine and he wants to go back for another 5 years to do this to you. To rape us with an umbrella, and worse, to open the umbrella after. That's what they're doing to us. And then they want to tell you that they are the only ones who should be in authority in this country because Rowley ain't fit. Rowley ain't fit. I'm calling my name every day as though it's about me. I've said to you already, it has nothing to do with me. Joe Rowley gave me 2.5 acres of land in Tobago. It's fenced around completely. I have a gate there. When you vote them back into office, don't cross my fence. And you know, while that is going on, the Canadians who they brought down, writing to them and telling them, we have to pull out our people from the job because of delay in payments. So while the money is being spent on that scale, the Canadian people who are supposed to be supporting the program and putting certain skills into it are pulling their staff out because of delay in payments. You know why? Because our government has no interest in any motor vehicle authority. All they have an interest in is awarding contracts and thieving money. I'm ashamed to say that of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, but that is the truth. And if a government could have done that in its first term and be so exposed, could you imagine what they will do in their second term? Because one would have thought when they came in as newcomers, at least they would have had some respect and some circumspection and some iota of wanting to do right by you. But this level of bold-facedness, when I told you all in the very first budget, I asked Winston Dukaran, why are you giving Anand Ramlogan $60 million for discretionary spending on lawyers? The average amount before was 20 million, and it went to 30 million in the last year because of the off inquiry, which was a one-off event. So it went from 20 to 30. You're giving them 60. When they came mid-year for the budget review, they went to 84. And when the year was closed, it was 108 they spent. In his first year as Attorney General, Anand Ramlogan was allowed to spend $108 million on discretionary legal fees in his ministry. and Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Vasant Bharat, and Prakash Amada sat there and supported that, even as the opposition was pointing it out. And every year after that, they appropriated money to him at about $100 million. So at the end of the year, at the end of the term, $500 million was spent by the Attorney General's office, appropriated by Parliament, to spend on lawyers. To spend on lawyers. And now you can't pay pensioners. Right now, tonight, there are thousands of pensioners around this country not being assured that their pension would arrive on time. That pension means food. It means shelter. It means medicine. It means self-respect. When a pensioner can't get a pension after years in the twilight of your days, what is he or she supposed to do? Go by the neighbor and ask for a tin of milk? Because Kamla Prasad Bisesa and her cabal just had an insatiable appetite for public money. The best we can say about this is gross mismanagement of the country's affairs. That's the best. And the worst we can say, it has all the signs of the worst acts of corruption associated with this government. You see? But they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They want to talk about matters that form no part of your public affairs. So the PNM says to you, we are not, as a population, without knowledge of this government's conduct. If we put them back into office, we are doing it with our eyes wide open. What more can we say? We've organized our party. We've prepared ourselves. Our policies and programs have been reviewed. We've presented you with the best manifesto that they could ever dream of. And we've given you a slate of competent citizens who are prepared to replace Alibaba and the 40 thieves. It's in your hands. It's in your hands. But you know, while we were preparing a manifesto over a 3-year period, they were busy committing all kinds of mayhem in the country. And then call the election in June for September, and the only reason why they didn't call it in December is because the law didn't allow it. The law said you can't stay there for more than 90 days after the parliament has dissolved. She take 88 days. The average number of days between the dissolution of parliament and an election being called in this country is 40 days. Only once did we ever go well beyond 40 days, and that was in 1976 because we were changing the constitution. Other than that, your average number of days was 40 days. Seems like we've been on this campaign now forever. They're in your ears, rinsing out your ears every day, 3-4 times with phone call, Prime Minister on the phone, as if you want to hear her. Next time she calls you on the phone, ask her where the motor vehicle money gone. Ask her if any other minister, any other prime minister in this country has ever had 4 ministers of transport in one term. Ask her if any prime minister in this country ever had 5 national security ministers in one term. But they fixed the call so they could talk, but you can't talk. You have to listen. And then you drink crazy juice and go down to vote for them. And then at the end of it all, you spend $400 billion and had 5 years to be on show as a new government, and you produce this. You had to pass in front Subway and see Subway have a yellow sign and plenty for 20, and you have a manifesto called 20 for 20. And you know, these people are so shameless. They couldn't even come up with 20 areas of the manifesto. They want to use plenty for 20, but they don't have 20 areas to offer you. So they split up 12 areas into 20. So you have, in the 20, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas on the economy and jobs. Let me go through the areas for you. Number 1, I think it's time we go through this plenty for 20. Healthcare is an area, that's the number 1 area, because she somehow believes that by asking the Chinese to build a building using Chinese money and Chinese labor on a hill in Cuba is somehow going to get her re-elected. So she goes down there and opens a rush building. You pay extra money to finish it on time. Did you know that? You pay for them to work night and day to build those walls and put on that roof, because all that thing is walls and a roof. There is no hospital there. And I don't know, and I'm sure she doesn't know when there'll be a hospital there. They went to Uganda, and I don't know how much they spent, if any at all, but they went to Uganda and tried to recruit 200 healthcare workers from Uganda. The authorities in Uganda stepped in and said, no way. Because they bad-mouthed us so much when we tried to bring Philippine and Cuban doctors and nurses here, but they've quietly gone halfway around the world to Uganda to get turned down. So right now, they have the empty shell of a building, but absolutely no staff to put in there. And if they come back into office, you know what they're going to do? They will strip staff from the other hospitals that are already short-staffed to put them in there to pretend that it's operating. So instead of getting better health care from an additional hospital, the whole health system will now be dragged down for political answer, politics. But of course, you know, so healthcare is her number 1 plenty for 20 because of the Cuba hospital. But of course, you know, C for Cuba and C for confusion. Even as I speak to you now, there's mass confusion, not for the first time in the RHAs. You remember the one in South where the CEO was sent out and a whole bag of worries? Now I see they just lose one this week because she parked in the wrong place in the some bacchanal going on. But the headline news is CEO of RHA fired. You saw that? So while you are sick and you're looking for care, they're looking for confusion. And she's offering you as a number 1 offering for 2020, yeah? So this is going to go on till 2020, healthcare. Item number 2, economy and jobs. And listen to Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa. We will double export and locally manufactured products by 2020 for economy and jobs. This is the woman. When she came into office in June, because the election was 24th of May, by June the cabinet was functioning, and by September, I filed a question in the parliament asking Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa and her government, how many contract workers have you dismissed and for what reason? 8,000. 8,000 people lost their jobs as a result of the government not renewing their contracts. And in the column that said reason, 90% of the columns were blank. No reason could be given. That is the record of Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa with people's jobs. But telling you now, she wants 5 more years. And that was the beginning. It went on right through top and bottom from CPEP to general. Got fired in that way. But she wants 5 more years. And of course, as I speak to you now, record-breaking budgets took place in this country, but the construction sector lost 3,000 jobs. Up to 2014, 3,000 jobs. Item number 3, same economy and jobs, because they had to make up to 20, right? They will increase employment in manufacturing by 50%. that means you're going to eat more red beans in tins or drink more condensed milk? No, you have to export it. If you increase our manufactured goods by 50%, it's largely for export. Export to who? The same Jamaican market that you tell them that you're not an ATM for? I went to Jamaica. This happened in 2011, remember that? I went to Jamaica last year, April. I took a 1-week vacation in Jamaica. And I was on a golf course. And the caddy said to me, so I think I will use your credit card. This is 3 years after that event. You remember Jamaica had promised to boycott all of Trinidad goods? 3 years later, the caddy is asking me if that is our view of Jamaicans. Thanks to Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa. When we want Jamaicans to feel proud of buying Trinidad and Tobago goods, as we're competing with the world, and now telling us nonsense about increasing manufacture by 50%. How? Doing what? Miracle? When you can't get foreign exchange to do the current level of manufacturing? As a result of her interfering with the central bank and Jawala Rambaran rampage in the central bank, there are many manufacturing businesses in this country now who have difficulty fighting from day to day, buying money at black market, lining up to get foreign exchange. How will that increase production by 1 or 50%? But she somehow thinks that we're stupid, and therefore she can tell us that. And we wouldn't see that what they are a danger to manufacturing rather than a facilitator. Item number 4, economy and jobs. And that they will double the number of jobs. Double the number of CPEP jobs and URP jobs. Is that anything for the government to boast about? They met the PNM building a technical park out there called E-Tech Park in Wallafield. They shut it down. Today there are thousands of young people who are in university expecting to come out to work in that E-Tech Park. Kamala Prasad Bisesa and Stephen Cadiz shut it down. And of course, what came out of it? What came out of it? A claim came out of the construction. We are being told now by the chairman of the party, the former acting prime minister, that the consultants told Vasant Bharat ministry, told E-Tech not to pay the claim because the claim was not warranted. The allegation in the public domain now in newspapers in St. Joseph and across the country is that the claim was paid to the tune of $75 million. When the advice is don't pay the claim because it's not warranted. And then the said minister who oversaw that is now being accused of being in receipt of a house bought in Western Trinidad by the contractor who got that unqualified claim paid. So if today Vasant Bharat finds himself being accused of that claim and of that house, I could simply say to him, it might very well be that had you acted in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, they wouldn't be calling your name in that now. Go explain yourself now. Go and explain yourself now. They like to call my name. I live down there. My mortgage was in Republic Bank, $410,000. I paid off every cent. I don't owe a cent now. So when police pass by me, they come to line or they're looking for Vasant Bharat. Item number 6, economy and jobs. Remember, we're still on economy and jobs, eh? Item number 5, economy and jobs. Item number 6, economy and jobs. And listen to this. In item number 6, economy and jobs, they are now going to be the blue economy. I don't know why they have it colors. When it's not gray, it's blue, it's green, it's silver. You make your name in gray, stay in gray now. So, the blue economy will be developed helping the coastal communities. Now this blue-green economy thing, like the name from Subway, is something that copied from abroad, you know. That's not original, you know. That was somebody else thing abroad that Rodney Charles bring here and give them. Blue and green and silver economy. But the blue economy is about helping coastal communities. I want to ask Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa tonight, what help did you give the coastal community of Carenage? You come in there and you meet the PNM building a fishing complex in Carenage, mirroring the one in Barbados at Oyston, where if you go to Barbados, anytime for vacation, once a day after Wednesday evening, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, the place to be is at Oyston's. Fish fry and music, dancing and walking about. That is what the Bajans do at Oyston's. We said we could mirror that in Carenage. Carenage is a fishing port. People in Carenage, they own fishing boats. So therefore, we could bring the fish in. We'll build a bandstand, we'll have steel band music, and the tourists will come down. After Fete in Chagaramas, the place to line is Carenage. In comes Kamla Prasad Bisesa. And the same way they bet the half-finished building, the only thing they did was to allow the handful of miscreants in Carenage, you can count all on one hand, and I know them by name, to thief out everything that wasn't nailed down on the site. So now the naked concrete skeleton been looking at you for 5 years. Tonight I want to tell the people of Carenage that one of the first things the next government of Trinidad and Tobago will do is to finish that project, and the concept would be there. And then she has the gall, after they've done that to the people of Carenage, she has the gall to come on national television and screaming at me and saying that she did this as Prime Minister, but I didn't do that. As if an opposition member has access to resources to build anything. I represent the people of Carenage, and what she did was to discriminate against them. We faced that discrimination, and not only with that, with other matters, but she's talking about blue economy. And then, of course, just make sure that whatever they have in that box, they have their clothes. When they're dead, bury their clothes. And of course, so the blue economy is about marine and discrimination in Carenage. And she has a silver economy, and guess who the silver economy is aimed at? The silver economy is aimed at our senior citizens. The same people who in 2010, she told that once you pass age 60, you guarantee $3,000 pension regardless of what other monies you may get. And then turn around and get Garvin Nicholas to be lying to you and telling you it's a misprint. So in 2010, the caring for senior citizens was $3,000 that turned into a misprint. But in 2015, she wants 5 more years to convert the concerns of the senior citizens into a silver economy. That is item number 6. Item number 7, item number 8, item number 9, crime. And of course, item number 7 says that they will wipe out the blight of crime to preserve law and order. Now guess who? Guess who is wiping out the blight of crime to preserve law and order? A Prime Minister who oversaw a cabinet with more members talking to the police than any other government anywhere in the world. As I speak to you now, the Attorney General under this Prime Minister is talking to the police about witness tampering, one of the bases of crimes, threatening the very heart of our jurisprudence, because without witnesses, you have no system of justice. But the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago is under allegations of witness tampering, and the Prime Minister herself is under a series of criminal investigations for all kinds of infractions. But she's telling you that item number 7 in her 20 for plenty is take away the blight from crime. And of course, the number 1 issue is law and order. This is a woman who flatly refused to do anything to have the commissioner of police appointed, who stripped the country of our information gathering security agencies, who appointed some strange girl to the head of the security service. Pleasure and practice went ahead of the police. And of course, she's telling you now that item number 7 on her totem pole is the number 1 issue of law and order. And of course, zero tolerance on crime. She can't have zero tolerance of crime in the cabinet, but she's promising you zero tolerance on crime in the country. And of course, item number 8, border control. If there is one thing that this lady is guilty of, is leaving our borders wide open to every drug dealer, every drug trafficker, every whoremonger coming to Trinidad and Tobago. We're wide open. 5 years. But now, item number 8. She canceled the OPVs that were paid for. We don't have them now. Took back the money. Spent it the way I just described on the Motor Vehicle Authority and similar expenditure. You know what she didn't do? The OPVs were carrying helicopters on them. Because when they go out there for 3 weeks, patrolling up and down for 3 weeks, if they see anything interesting, the helicopter goes off and investigates. So the OPV was a launching and landing pad for a helicopter. So they canceled the OPVs because we're not supposed to be in the sea, we're supposed to be on the road. But they kept the helicopters. And the helicopters became Kamla Pram. Up and down in the helicopter. She gets airsick very frequently, I'm told. Right? But she wouldn't come out the helicopter. Helicopters bought for national security, commandeered for personal transport. Even Vanilla, you know, was helicoptering from Tobago to Trinidad on a regular basis. You know. One helicopter trip from Tobago to Trinidad is about $2,000 US. Vanilla not going in line in Tobago. Vanilla is helicoptering down. And she right, because Kamla Prasad Bisesa had put Vanilla Allen Toppin as Prime Minister of this country. In case you all forgot that. Vanilla Allen Toppin, the most disgraceful of all parliamentarians in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Prasad Bisesa put her as Prime Minister in this country. And of course, item number 9 is still crime. And that is, they're going to do wonders with surveillance. We have surveillance systems in this country. Yes, we do. But all they're being used for is to monitor political opponents of the government. Not the criminals, you know. The government monitoring people who they feel are politically opposed to them. So it's no wonder why the criminals are running riot, that the police is getting no help from surveillance. Because I don't tell them, don't bother to monitor me. If I have anything to say, you will hear it on the platform and you will read it in The Guardian. It's as simple as that. Don't waste my taxes trying to monitor me. And if you want to know anything, just ask me, I will tell you. Paying thousands of dollars to be monitoring people. And if you don't believe me, those who know will tell you. And of course, so we pass crime now, number 9. 3 sections on crime and 5 on the economy. Bogus numbers, right? So we're down to number 10, education. And they will fix the country school by school. The PNM created something called the Education Facilities Company Limited. That has been used by this government to be the most corrupt of most of the other corrupt state enterprises. We came to Parliament early in the game. Colum Inbert came with about 5 pounds of documents with name, addresses, and numbers of money being stolen in the FCL. Well, the minister was so embarrassed, he got up in the Parliament and he promised an investigation. To this day, not a thing has happened except that the minister became the darling of EFCL. And when Jack Warner photographed him coming out of a contractor's house with a plastic bag and a briefcase, he said it was curry, shrimp, and roti. Item number 11. Well, she heard us say that we will change the school curriculum to make it more relevant and to introduce history and to create better citizens from the primary school level. They copy that. So they will develop a rollout. They will develop a rollout of a comprehensive school curriculum. When did you ever hear them say that before? When did you ever hear that? They were in office for 5 years. The only thing they rolled out were bags of money from EFCL. But they heard the PNM talking about intervening in the primary school curriculum and the senior school curriculum because we want to change the quality of our citizens. They put it as item number 11. Item number 12, homes. They're promising a home to everybody who wants one. Because they believe they have enough money to buy a house for everybody who wants one. But for that to happen, they have to bring back the money. And you know nothing happening. So, for those who want a home, there are some towers in the West where the pressure for housing is greatest in the country. We have a number of towers. I think there are 4 towers near Victoria Keys. One Victoria Keys, there are 3 there and one by the police station. 5 years they met them there. I was the minister who was in charge of building those houses. When I left the ministry in 2007, they had finished tiling those buildings and they had put in the cupboards. You know, when you reach tiling stage and cupboard stage, you're nearly inside. 7 years after, because there were 2 years of that, what's her name? Whatever she called. She had 2 years. And they had 5 years of this government. They're still building them. 5 years of this government. They're still building the buildings they met with cupboards and tiles. And she's concerned about another 5 years. Behind the Hangman Cemetery on George Cabell Street, we have a number of towers there, hundreds of units. People are desperate for accommodation in and around Port of Spain. They didn't finish one, not even one. They're there right now waiting on the PNM to come back and finish them. I want to give the community of Port of Spain and the Western community for whom those units were designed. When the PNM comes into office, we will finish them and a number of hundreds of families will move into those units and then your lives will be changed. That is item number 12. Item number 13 is still houses. And in that housing under item number 13, she's promising widespread land distribution. Well, this Prime Minister idea of widespread land distribution is to give away colony lands to her corrupt friends and to corrupt the public service. There was one individual who went down there and fenced around 17 acres of the best colony land. And when the press found out and asked why is that land fenced around and who is the person, a public servant says to the press, well, that contractor who built the Prime Minister's house, he fenced it around because he intends to apply for it. And if when he applies for it, he doesn't get it on the application, then he will move the fence. That happens in this country. Whenever you're flying into Piaco, look out the window of the plane on the right side. You'll see a series of plots of colony land being cleared all over the place. Those are the lands given away largely by this government. And they're so wicked. Avinash Singh, a young man from Felicity, under our constitution which guarantees you freedom of association, joined the PNM and became the PNM candidate in the by-election. The Prime Minister goes down there and tells the country and tells the community that something was wrong because one of our sons has gone with them. Racial undertones of the worst kind. As if Avinash Singh doesn't have the right under the Constitution to join the PNM if he so chooses. She calls him one of our sons who have gone with them. Who's she calling them? Huh? But I gave Avinash Singh and the Felicity community and the Indian community an undertaking that night. I said the PNM been playing the fool before. Whenever PNM members come forward and face that kind of calumny in those communities and they don't win the seat, the party turns its back on you. This PNM has stopped that. Stop that. Our PNM members in South and Central Trinidad will not be rejected because they haven't won the seat. They'll be rejected out of character and character only. But of course, You know what they did? Avinash is a trained farmer, trained by you, the taxpayers. He has a degree in agriculture, and rather than go and look for work, he go on the land and is farming. They go down there and try to take away the land from him and try to put him off the land. And to do it, they had to enjoy the same thing all the other farmers, and they were going to put off 60 farmers off the land. The largest sweet potato farmer in Trinidad, feeding our children in the school feeding program. This government was prepared to put him off the land. We had to threaten to go to court before Devant Maharaj back away. But God don't sleep. You only put on short pants. Might put on pajamas, but you don't sleep. Where's Devant Maharaj now? Where's Avinash now? Avinash Singh is the proud PNM candidate in Caroni Central. Where's Devant now? But that is the kind of thing, and then coming and telling you here, in her 2020, whatever it is, that they will give widespread land ownership, facilitating the greatest land grab ever in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. As I speak to you now, large tracts of Caroni land were given to farmers. The government removed the stricture to allow those lands to be sold. And guess what? Big businessmen are down there now buying out all the parcels of lands given to the small farmers, many of whom were never farmers. That's going on under the watchful eye of this government. So item number 3 is that. Item number 14 is transport. And in that transport is a causeway to Chagaramas. She goes to Florida and she sees a causeway to Key West, she wants one. She goes to China, she sees a boat, she wants one. That's how she shops. Then she goes to the garden and she sees a plant, she wants some of that too. You're going to plant like substances. But she's planning to build a causeway from Port of Spain to Chagaramas. No idea of the cost of that. But I said that this PNM government will build a road on solid ground from Valencia to Toko. She wants to know the cost. All of a sudden, the cost is important. And of course, since that cost we don't know, she's going to build a bridge to Tobago. A bridge to Tobago, you know. The longest bridge of that nature in the world is about a mile. And when they built it in Japan, it cost $2.5 billion US. Could you imagine how much they want Tobago will cost? If you can build it at all, 28 miles of freestanding bridge. Madness. Madness. You have to be on some kind of substance to think that. And of course, number 15 is transport. We are saying that we will review what we have done so far because this country has a transportation traffic problem. I left last Wednesday to go to San Fernando. I got into traffic by the stadium. And in 3.5 hours, I was in San Fernando, traffic on the entire journey. This morning I was going to South. We're going down, moving a little freely, but coming in from South, traffic all the way. I had a passenger in my vehicle. The passenger turned to me and asked me, "What's going on here?" I said, "This is normal." He said, "You mean?" I said, "Yes, every day." But they have an issue with us saying that this problem has to be solved. The PNM says we will look seriously and get independent consideration of a mass transit system. They say no. They put a price tag on it, 60 billion. They know the price of the rapid rail, but they don't know the price of the bridge to Tobago. But of course, they have an alternative system. And it is something called a bus rapid transit. In short, buses that fly. Because if the car is in the traffic and the bus in the traffic and the bus carrying you, the bus has to fly. in criticizing their slipshod way of just showing computers at children, regardless of what the computers are doing in the schools and the school program and the teaching program. They heard Columimba talking about improving the broadband system in the country and ensuring that the schools all have broadbands and that there are hotspots around the country where the population gather so we can all make use of it and be heading towards a nationwide broadband, free broadband service. They put that in there too. That's number 16. Number 17, gender equality. They heard Jack Warner was coming with a story. So they decided right now to deal with gender equality. For 5 years, they had the gender policy document there. She did absolutely nothing about it. But last week, she goes to a meeting and Diana Mahabir Wyatt got up and asked about it. Right then and there, she is the go-to lady. She instructed right there in the hall that it be brought to cabinet the following Thursday to be approved. Just so. Government by VAPs. 5 years you couldn't deal with it, but one question in a hall and it's to be approved on Thursday. You want your country run like that? Whatever was preventing you from approving it for 5 years just suddenly disappear. And it's going to be approved on Thursday, whatever it contains. And then, of course, that was item number 17. Item number 18 is water. Remember water for all by the year 2000? That was the same Kamala and Ganga Singh. We were so close to water for all that by 2000 they were saying water for all by the year 2000. Now they're lying to you and telling you when they came into office, only 17% of the population was getting water. And they did some magic, and now 95% getting water. They didn't build a reservoir, they didn't dig a drain, all they did are a couple of wells in Tobago, and they lay some pipes, and they hire contractors like mad. Right now, I can say to you, we have no idea how many billions of dollars WASA has spent. But we do know that they spend loud money. And this is the first time that Tobago had no water. And of course, you're driving around the country and you see pipe laying. And item number 18 says that they're going to lay 1,000 kilometers of pipes. You know why? They love to lay pipe. They love to award contracts. Because you know the objective is not to give you water, you know. The objective is to award contracts. As you go around the country, how many of you have seen the signboards of the contractor who lay in the pipe? I saw 2 this week. One is an auto dealer. The other one is a hardware store. One was a hardware store as the contractor, and the other one was an auto dealer. On one trip, I saw these 2 billboards. So all of a sudden, the bona fide contractors who can do civil works and lay pipes, they're not getting no work. It's hardware stores laying the pipes. And they're going to be laying 1,000 kilometers. That is how they're handling the country's affairs. That's item number 18. Item number 19, this one takes the cake. Hold on to your chair for this one. We will transform the Taruba facility into the Taruba Sport Academy. Now, people of Trinidad and Tobago, for 5 years, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Rudal Munilal, and other Kabbalists, they drive past that stadium for 5 years, hoping that it will rotten down and be a scandal for the PNM. All of a sudden, election week, it is item number 19, sport. Because they want to go far, far from live sport. They don't want to mention live sport. They're going to Taruba. And you know what? PNM wanted to be a cricket ground. A major cricket ground. No. Like the bridge to Toko, I was supposed to better the Valencia Road. It's now a sporting academy. Because they had to get to 20. Because at Subway, it's not 20 for 19. It's 20 for 20. So they had to get to... And item number 20, now you must laugh at this one. Item number 20 is good governance. Now, for heaven's sake, Mrs. Bissessa, it better you promise us hills and snowballs, but I mean not good governance. What does Kamla Prasad Bissessa and the Kaban know about good governance? Good governance, and there's a breakout. Let me close on the breakout of good governance. It involves procurement reform. But that only will come after Botiwari had to be dragged to court about giving away the Invaders Bay land, and the court rules that the minister has questions to answer about the inappropriate award of that piece of property down there. And there are orders from the court to the minister, which the minister is disobeying. And of course, you know, it says, as part of good governance, party financing would be legislated. Party financing? They are paying people now at $3,000 for a vote, $5,000 for a vote, because they have accumulated so much money. What interest they have in party financing? There was a meeting in Jamaica called by the OS of all political parties in the region, those in government and those in opposition. The one party that never turned up was the UNC. Not a single person from the ruling party in Trinidad went. I went there and spent 2 days in that conference. They had another conference in Jamaica, in Barbados. I don't know that they went. They came here to Trinidad. We begged the OS officers to beg the government to host a conference here on campaign finance. We never heard a word about it, but I suspect the government didn't agree. And now after you pile up money under your bed, in your fridge, all about you come talking about campaign finance as item number 20. And of course, the pièce de résistance is strong, independent institutions. This is the woman who is the latest allegation against her. Not made by me, but made by the chairman of her party, the man she put up as prime minister 4 times. He is now telling us that the presidency has been undermined because police did an investigation of Mr. Carmona and his wife. Find out that there were stories to be told and not to be told, and the prime minister intervened and had the story abridged, so the whole story wasn't taken into account. And the chairman of her party, 4-time prime minister, is telling us one of the reasons for the impotence of the president today is that the prime minister has holding over his head the knowledge of misconduct within his family. That is UNC's story to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, told to us by chairman of the UNC who brought it into government and a man who acted 4 times as prime minister here. And she's telling us about committed to institutions. And of course, I was a opposition leader. I filed a motion about Larry Hawaii and his questions to answer about insider trading when he oversaw the insider trading at FCB. And there were allegations against him that was somehow not properly cleared up. And he was going down to Phoenix Park to have more IPOs sold. Before I could close the motion, she used the majority in the parliament and expelled me from the parliament. And coming and telling you now that item number 20 is strong, independent institutions. The Attorney General's office was a scandal hole defended by the Prime Minister. The Solicitor General wrote to the Prime Minister telling her that there were things happening in the prisons that were feeding back into the AG office, and there could be probably criminal conduct there. Today there's a criminal investigation out of the AG's office actions. And the Prime Minister buried it by sending it back to the said Attorney General, not once but twice. And she's now telling you part of her 20 for 20 is that she will guarantee strong, independent institutions. And of course, Mr. London was here a while ago. If he had the time to tell you about the undermining of the Tobago House of Assembly by this government, the undermining of the Assembly, this Prime Minister went and created a Ministry for Tobago Development for Delmon Baker. They were so sure that Ashworth Jack was going to win the election in 2013, they changed the protocol list and put the chief secretary above the opposition leader so that Ashworth Jack would have been above the opposition leader on the order of precedence. of course, Ashworth Jack couldn't hold his own seat. But the end result now is the obscenity of the THL leader who reports to the opposition leader being above him on the protocol list. That's what they did. And then, of course, you know, they created that Ministry of Tobago Development. And in the last budget adjustment, in full public view with no shame at all, they appropriated $3.5 million for the Ministry for Tobago Development for short-term employment between June and September, which just happens to coincide with the election period. And it didn't bother them at all. They didn't care that you could see it. But as I said to you, man proposed, God disposed. She gave $3.5 million to Delmon Baker for short-term employment for the election. Delmon Baker can't find a seat. Can't find a seat to spend the money on. But I'm waiting to see who else spending it. Because, you know, I've been hearing about the conditions in the prison, and they don't sound like no holiday to anybody. So they mightn't bother to spend it. But you see, these are the people who somehow believe that you live in the land of Rip Van Winkle. And all that I told you there, they believe will just never have been known to you. And they could come in the newspapers. They could come in the newspapers and take $10,000 a page to tell you foolishness. And you will vote on that basis. Now, people of Trinidad and Tobago, no people have ever been so abused in this country like we're being abused now by this government. And if you want to pass this and consider them to continue, you are choosing the demise of the dream of our independence. Tonight we have in our presence here Mr. Overhand Padma. I want to acknowledge him. He and his colleagues served for many a term, and none of them can be so accused of enriching themselves out of the public purse. As a matter of fact, many of them left office with an old car that they couldn't buy a new one. They all live in the same house they started out in. And of course, they don't have money in Dubai and in New York and in Cayman and houses in where and there and there. And of course, it's only since this Prime Minister came into office that the Prime Minister's salary is paid in elastic. He could stretch to build a palace. Patrick Manning living in an apartment in San Fernando. A.M.R. Robinson had the same house he had on Baculet Street. And of course, Mr. Chambers was living in Santa Margarita. The only Prime Minister who moved from hovel to palace is Kamala Prasad Bisesa in one term. One term. And that's how they see government. I say to you tonight, this country has been very good to me and to all our members here. I acknowledge that this country has given me what I never dreamt of. And all I offer this country is my experience and my commitment to public service. The choice is yours. The choice is yours. But in 2015, like I did in Tobago, like I did in the local government election, I say to you, the people, I have every confidence that the vast majority of people in this country are decent, right-thinking citizens. And like it says in our fundamental documents in this PNM, it matters not to your race, your religion, your creed, or your class. Decency knows no division of that nature. So come election day, regardless of where you're located, regardless of who you are, what you look like, what your origin is, you are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and you have a responsibility to intervene in these affairs. The responsibility is yours. I have one vote, and I intend to cast it early on the morning of September 7th, and I intend to vote for the PNM. I ask you to join me and save Trinidad and Tobago. And when you would have done that, on the night of September 7th, by 10 o'clock on that night, we would have known that you would have intervened, and intervened vigorously and decisively to save Trinidad and Tobago. And we'll give that shout of thanks and praise. Great is the PNM, great is Trinidad and Tobago, and may Almighty God continue to bless us.
PNM family.